Dietmar Kohl talks about Milli Vanilli and his collaboration with the brilliant Frank Farian.
Dietmar,
you have much more in common with Milli Vanilli than the mega hit you wrote for them. We'll get to that in a moment, but I'm interested in another story, and I think you know which one I mean.
From Milli Vanilli. Yes, the discovery of the two. In the movie, it was completely different. But I don't care. People in Hollywood do what they think. This story in the movie was not true. I really discovered Robert Pilatus in a discotheque in Munich, in the East Side, together with Frank Farian. We were sitting there and Frank had a video production the next day, so he was looking for black dancers, if possible, for another project called The Bushman. Then I said, look over there. He dances well. That's a black guy. Shouldn't I go and ask him? Yes, go ahead. Then I asked him, shouted him on the dance floor, hey, do you know Frank Farian? Then he says, yes, of course. Bonnie M. I say, he's over there. Why don't you come with me? We told him the story, and he said, yes, I'm very happy to do it. But I'm still a student, and then I'd have to leave school, so I don't know if I'll get permission. Then I said, you know what? I'll talk to the principal. I'll pick you up tomorrow, talk to him, and see if he'll make an exception. We did it this way. I drove him to the studio, and he was happy to dance and everything. Then we come into the studio, and what is done with him? And here it comes. They put a pumpkin on him, with his eyes and mouth cut out, and let him act there. A pumpkin. And then, of course, he was very disappointed, but he said, okay, he got some money for it. But then a few weeks later, with his friend Fat Morvan, he said, you know what? I got to know Farian. Let's go to his studio near Frankfurt, in Rossbach. And they went there and talked to him, whether he has something for them and so on. He says, I've just got something here. You could dance to it and take photos and stuff. And they thought they would sing it too, but it was already sung. He said, yes, we can talk about it next time, but for now we just need the photos and for you to dance in the video. And then, of course, it came as a surprise to everyone. Farian was also surprised that it became a worldwide hit. Then they made this video, and it went through the roof. And at some point, of course, they also wanted to sing themselves. Then Frank said, we could do that, and he recorded it. I also heard them singing back then, and then I thought to myself, well, you can't take it like that. And he didn't take that either, and then published it like this. And at some point they got angry and said, next time we'll sing or we'll come with the lawyer. And then they came with the lawyer, with Meyer Wolden, the father of the current actress and influencer Sandy Meyer Wolden. And then Farian said, watch out, if you come like this, I'll uncover the whole thing. And then also uncovered the scandal and said, yes, I admit, they weren't. Many were disappointed. In America, they are then equipped with huge, what do you call those who roll these things up on the street?
Rollers.
Rollers, yes, and have smashed the CDs.
There was that scandal where the sound failed or the power went out.
Yes, the blackout happened once at a concert, although Farian had forbidden them to perform live. But they did it. And then there was a power cut, and everyone realized they couldn't sing at all. And that was, of course, a huge scandal. And they still got the Grammy.
Also
So the
unterm
bottom
Strich
line
kann man
is,
sagen, so wie wir Milli
the way we
Vanilli
know Milli
kennen,
Vanilli and the
mit
two of
den
them would
beiden
never
hätte
have
es nie
existed if
gegeben,
you
wenn
hadn't
du
discovered
den
Rob.
Plot
So weit würde ich nicht gehen.
nicht
I
entdeckt
wouldn't go
hättest.
that
So weit würde
far.
ich nicht gehen.
It could
hätte auch
also
sein
have been
können,
that
dass
Farian
Fabian sagt,
says, "Look,
der
that
da
one
drüben,
over
der
there."
ist so, oder
But he
den hat
didn't
er gar
even
nicht
see
gesehen,
him
weil er
because
hat
he
die
was talking to
ganze
someone the
Zeit
whole
die ganze
time.
Zeit.
And I was
Ich
always
hab immer
looking
geguckt,
because the
weil die
task was to
Aufgabe war
maybe
ja,
find
vielleicht finden wir
someone.
jemanden. Aber
But still,
trotzdem, also da will ich keinen
I don't want to
großen,
make a big deal out of
Klotz
it.
draus machen.
That is a
Das
pure
ist ein
coincidence,
reiner
and it has
Zufall und das
always
dann
been
auch völlig
completely
klar
irrelevant.
Aber es ist eine tolle
Yes,
Story. Ich
Ja,
the
meine,
story
die
is
Story
great.
ist,
And
vor allem,
above
wie es
all,
war.
it's true.
Und im Film war das eben so, dass
And in the
sie
movie, it
in
was
P1
just that they are
entdeckt
discovered in
wurden.
P1,
Das war
but
aber
that was in the
damals
east side back
Südzeit.
then.
Ja, aber mir ist es so egal.
But I don't
Ja,
care.
es geht ja nicht um
It's
mich
not
dabei,
about me,
aber es geht um
but
die
it's about the
Geschichte.
story.
Und die war eben
And it was
anders
different
als
from the
die
movie.
Aber ist
But
egal.
it doesn't matter.
dann kommen wir
Then
zum
we come to the
zweiten
second
Thema.
topic.
Du hast
You wrote
Gonna
Girl, I'm
Miss
Gonna
You
Miss You,
geschrieben.
Ja,
Yes, with Frank and Peter Bischoff.
Aber du
but
bist
you
der
are the
Komponist.
composer?
Ja, wir
Ja, oder
waren,
ihr wart ein Team.
wir waren ein Team, haben
Writer
das ein bisschen
Team.
zusammen
We were a
alles
team.
gemacht. Ja, ja.
We did it a bit together.
Und damit waren
And you
wir
were number
auch
one in
Platz
the
1
USA
in den
for
USA.
weeks.
Ja, ich glaube,
Yes,
4 Wochen.
I think
aber
4
bin nicht
weeks,
sicher.
but I'm not
Vielleicht
sure.
2.
Und damit
Maybe only 2.
bist du einer der wenigen
And that makes you one of the few German musicians, composers, and
Komponisten,
songwriters
There are perhaps 10 more in Germany.
die Nummer 1
who had a number one in the USA.
Ja, das ist auch
I think that's great.
toll. Gefällt
I
mir.
like it.
Und ganz aktuell
And right
hat der
now,
Song ja wieder
the
eine
song
ganz
has a
neue
whole
Relevanz
new
jetzt
relevance.
gewonnen. Einmal durch den Film
Just once through the Milli Vanilli movie.
Der Film hieß
Yes,
Girl, You
the
Know
movie
It's
was
True,
called Girl, You
aber
Know
kein
It's True,
großer Erfolg
but it
in
wasn't a great
Deutschland.
success in Germany.
Vielleicht durch die neue
Maybe the new Netflix series will bring him back a little after all.
Und da wollte ich noch mal
And I
kurz
wanted to
drauf
come back to
sprechen
that briefly.
Die
The Netflix series Monster.
Ja,
man würde das ja jetzt überhaupt nicht.
You wouldn't associate it with Milli Vanilli at all, but it
hat
does have a
tatsächlich eine
connection.
Verbindung.
ja, deswegen, weil die beiden
Yes,
Mörder
because the two
waren
murderers
große
were
Milli
big
Vanilli
Milli
Fans
Vanilli
und
fans,
haben auch die anderen Lieder
and also liked to
gerne
sing their
immer
other
gesungen,
songs.
so im Auto
So
gefahren,
sang
Blame
along
It
to
on
Blame It on the Rain while driving.
Und
And my
Lied
song
kommt halt
appears
zweimal
twice in
drin
it.
vor, aber nicht, dass
Not
sie
that they sing
sondern
it,
so als
but as a
Hintergrund.
background.
Und diese
And this Netflix
ist
series has
echt,
really hit
Deutschland
number one in
Nummer
Germany.
1 eingestiegen. Könnte auch
Could also hold up well,
halten,
as it
das
is
wird
very well
besprochen.
discussed.
Aber ja, es
It's a
ist
beautiful
eine schöne
thing.
Sache.
You don't get rich
Reich
with
wird man
Netflix
nicht damit bei
songs.
Netflix-Songs,
But it
ist
doesn't
aber
matter.
egal, es geht ums.
It's about being there.
Das ist ja die Krux
That's the
mit den
crux of the
ganzen,
matter
ja,
with all the streaming
Ja,
stories and such.
Kann man nur hungern.
You can only
Aber
starve.
es ist doch eine tolle
But it's a
Geschichte.
great
Ich mein,
story.
Der Song ist
I mean, the song came out in 1989. That's 35 years ago.
Also, ja,
und dann
And then
plötzlich
suddenly the
kommt es ja
topic
wieder hoch.
boils up again.
unglaublich. Aber
Incredible.
natürlich schön.
That's nice.
Ist ein bisschen
A
eine
bit of
Bestätigung,
confirmation.
Ja, also ich meine,
Yes, well, I mean, a bit of confirmation.
Ja.
Ich glaube,
With a number one in America, and I think also number one in the UK, that was a mega success.
Und dann hatten wir ja auch
And
Frank
then
und ich,
Frank
das,
and I
mit
had
No
also
Mercy,
written for
When
No
I Die
Mercy, When I
geschrieben.
Die.
Das
And that
war
was
auch
also a
in
great
Europa ein
success
großer
in
Erfolg.
Europe.
Und
And I remember
ich weiß noch,
we
das
wrote
haben wir
that in
geschrieben auf
Ibiza.
Ibiza. Und ich brachte die
I
Gitarre
had brought a
mit,
guitar
und
with
dann
me,
haben wir
and
so
then we strummed
rumgespielt.
around there.
Aber es war in der
But it
Nähe
was
des
near the
Flughafens,
airport,
und
and
dann
we
war
had to
ab und
stop
zu auch
every now and then
Flugzeuge waren zu
because
laut.
the airplanes were
Und
too
dann
loud.
natürlich von vorne,
Then we
da haben
forgot
wir
again.
vergessen, wie
How
war
was
das? Das war
that?
aber alles
But we had
auf
recorded
Rekorder
everything on a
aufgenommen.
recorder.
Das wurde ja auch ein
And it
sehr
finally
schöner
turned out to be a very nice, great European hit.
Nur in England
Only in
durfte
England was it
nicht
not allowed to be
veröffentlicht werden, weil
published
genau zu
because
der
Lady
Zeit
Di died at
starb
exactly
Lady
the
Di.
same time.
Da hat die Plattenfirma
The
gesagt, wir
record
können
company
jetzt
said we
keinen
couldn't
Song
release a song
rausbringen,
called
der
When I
heißt
Die.
When I Die.
ja,
Schade,
ja.
schade. Aber
It's a shame, but that's the way the world is and you have to accept it.
muss man akzeptieren.
And it's okay too.
Ich hätt's
I
als
wouldn't have published it as a
Plattenmanager
record
in England
manager in England either, I have to say.
Da gab es ja auch mal in Deutschland die
There was a German band from Berlin with their song called The Perfect Wave.
Welle.
Yes, that was not allowed to continue because there was the tsunami. You can compare that.
Du hast ja vor Milli Vanilli auch schon
You
für
also
Boney
wrote
M.
songs for Boney M before Milli Vanilli.
10 Songs.
Yes,
glaub ich,
I think I did 10 songs in total.
Warst da auch in
Were you also
Produktionen
involved in the
Nee,
productions?
nur im
No,
Komponieren.
only in composing.
Produktion hat
Production
immer
has always made Farian.
Liz hast du aber
But with
mal
Liz, you
Mit
once
Liz hatte ich
had.
mal eine-
Yes, I once had a song with Liz.
Ich war ja oft
I
bei
was
ihm im
often in his studio,
auch bei
even on
Produktionen,
productions that I had
die nicht
nothing to
damit
do
tun
with.
hatte. Wir waren ja
We
sehr
were
eng
very close
befreundet.
friends,
Und,
and he sometimes
hat
asked me for my
manchmal nach meiner
opinion.
Meinung gefragt, was meinst du denn? Und so.
What do you think about
dem und
this
dem.
and
Dann
that?
hat
And
sie
then
einen
she
Song von
recorded
mir
a song of
aufgenommen, so
mine,
eine Ballade,
a ballad.
die heißt
It is called Where Did You Go?
Und die hat sie, er hat gesagt,
And he said,
mach mal
do it
mit
with
ihr
her in
im
the
Studio.
studio.
Er hat 3
He had 3
Studios
studios there.
Mach mal mit
Do
ihr
the
den
vocals
Gesang
with
und
her,
dann
and
schauen wir
then
mal.
we'll see.
Und sie,
She
hat
thought
den
it was a
Titel
great
toll
title
gefunden und hat
and
ihn
loved
sehr
it very
geliebt und
much
hat ihn gesungen.
and sang it.
Und normalerweise macht man ja mehrere Spuren.
And normally you make several
Weil man
tracks
halt von der
because you
nimmt man
take the part
die
from one
Stelle,
track,
von der
you
anderen
take
Spur
the
nimmt man
part
die
from the
Stelle,
other
dann
track,
schneidet
then you
man
cut
das
it
zusammen.
together.
Und dann
And then we
haben die
called him in and
reingerufen, ja,
said,
Frank, hör mal
Frank,
an, wie viele
listen,
Spuren sollen
how
wir
many
noch
more
machen?
tracks should we
Dann
make?
hört er sich das an
And
und
then he
sagt,
listens to it and says,
Perfekt,
perfect,
besser geht's
it
nicht.
couldn't be better.
Und dann hat sie wirklich diesen
And then
Song
she really sang this song, one take.
gesungen und da
And you get
kriegst du
goosebumps
Gänsehaut,
when you
wenn du
hear
das
it.
hörst. Toll gesungen.
Great
Also,
singing. So, Liz Mitchell,
großartig. Ich hab sie
great.
jetzt wieder
I
getroffen
met her again at
bei
Frank
der
Farian's funeral in Berlin.
Von Frank Farian in Berlin. Und sie ist ein Herz.
She's a kind-hearted person, hugs you and is happy about the times before and so on.
Früher und so. Also,
Du warst
tolle
doch
Frau.
mal mit
You
ihr
were
in
once in
England.
England with her in the Abbey Road studio.
Ich war mal,
I used to
das ist
be
auch verrückt,
crazy too.
Bei den Aufnahmen zum Weihnachtsalbum.
During the
von mir.
recording of the Christmas album, Boney M., Frank didn't have enough time to record 3 songs with Liz Mitchell, who lived in London.
Und dann hat er das Abbey Road
And then he
Studio
booked the Abbey Road studio, and Liz was supposed to sing these 3 songs in one day.
Und dann hat er mich
Then
mit
he
den
sent me
Bändern
there with the
hingeschickt, weil
tapes
er hatte
because he
keine
didn't
Zeit.
have time.
Ich hab
And I
gedacht,
thought,
ja, ist ja
oh
toll,
cool,
Abbey Road
at Abbey
Studio,
Road
Mensch,
Studio,
da spiele
man,
ich mal Klavier
maybe I'll
auf
play
den,
the piano that Paul
auch
McCartney
Paul
used to
McCartney
play.
gespielt hat. Das ist doch was.
That's something.
Leider haben wir keine Fotos
Unfortunately,
gemacht,
we
haben wir
didn't
damals
take
nie
any
gemacht.
photos. You never did back then.
Ja, und dann kommen wir da an
And then we get there,
und am Flughafen.
and at the airport, someone came and says, "You need a taxi?"
Und dann habe ich gesagt,
And then I said yes. I thought it was right there.
und dann liefen wir ungefähr
And then we
1
walked about a
Kilometer
kilometer to
bis
some
an einer
remote
abgelegenen
spot where he
Stelle,
was
an dem er
standing.
stand. Das war auch
It
kein
wasn't a
Taxi, es war
cab
ein
either.
Privat-
It was a private individual.
Na, das
I
kann ja
thought,
was
well,
werden.
that could be something.
2 Kilometer
And 2
von
kilometers
dem
before the
Abbey
Abbey
Road
Road
Studio
studio, he was
hat er
like,
gesagt, er hat
now I
keine
don't have time.
Und ich musste bezahlen.
And I had to pay and got off the car with these 224 track tapes, which are really thick, big, and heavy, and walked 2 kilometers to the Abbey Road studio.
Aber die Arbeit hat natürlich sehr viel Spaß
But of course, it
gemacht.
was a lot of fun working at Abbey Road Studio.
Und du hast dann auf dem
You played the piano
Ich
then.
hab da ein bisschen
I played
rumgespielt,
around
ja.
on it a bit.
Klar, macht
Sure,
Spaß.
it's fun.
The original Paul McCartney
Ja,
piano?
später, aber es
Yes,
war leider
but
nicht
unfortunately, it
gespielt.
wasn't in tune. And then it's always not so much fun.
Wir hatten ja schon mal drüber gesprochen, dass Farian so diese Gabe
We had
hatte,
already talked about the
irgendwie
fact that Farian had this
Hits,
gift
zu
of
erkennen,
recognizing
ja,
hits,
wenn's
even
auch
if it
nur
was only a
Teil
fraction
der
of the
Melodie
melody.
war.
Ja. Ja, die Story ist toll. Da
Yes, the story is great.
ist er mit den 4 von Boney M.
The 4 of
saßen
Boney
in
M.
einer Limousine
sat in the back of a limousine.
nach einer Fernsehaufzeichnung. Und
I
er
think
saß
after a
vorne
TV recording,
und,
and he was sitting in front
neben dem
and next to the
Taxifahrer,
limousine driver.
Limousinenfahrer. Und dann
And then they
fingen sie
suddenly
an zu
started
singen.
singing.
Die kamen ja aus Jamaika.
They were from Jamaica,
Die Bonis
The Bonies.
fingen an zu singen.
and the Bonies started
und machten-
singing and started with
fingen an
Mary's
mit
boy child,
Mary's Boy
Jesus
Child,
Christ.
Jesus Christ. Da sagt er, stopp.
He says, "Stop. What is that?"
Dann sagt er, ja, das sind jamaikanische
It's a Jamaican folk song.
Ja, sing mal
Yes,
weiter.
sing
Und
on.
dann singen die das.
And after the
Und nach
first
den
2
ersten 2
sentences, he
Sätzen
says, "That's
sagt er,
brilliant.
das ist
We'll
ja
record
genial.
it.
Das nehmen wir auf. Das
It's a
ist
hit.
Das ist eine tolle Melodie.
What a great melody." And then they continue to sing, and later in harmonies
Und
too.
dann, ne? Aber er hat schon gleich beim ersten Satz
But he said
gesagt,
right from the first sentence, "Hit."
und das war seine
And that was his
Genialität.
genius.
Ne? Er spielte ja kein
He didn't
Instrument,
play an instrument,
aber dann hört er was
but then he
und
hears
sagt,
something and
Genial.
Genius.
Und da machen wir.
We do it.
Das ist eine
And that's a gift that
Gabe,
very
die
few
haben
people
ganz
have,
wenige.
I think.
Das ist wirklich so, dass
It really is the case that playing sheet music and so on are all things that many musicians can learn. They study that.
Die studieren das,
Ja.
aber so eine Gabe zu haben,
But to have such a gift to recognize and know something like that,
sowas zu erkennen und
Ja.
zu wissen. Und wir hatten ja Gespräche mit Johann Dansen.
Ja.
we had
der
talks
ja
with
auch in
Johann
ganz frühen
Danson,
Jahren,
who was also with
wirklich
Farian in the
bei
very early
Farian,
years.
mit
Ja, ich
dabei
weiß,
war
ja.
und
Da habe ich ihn auch
That's where I got to know him.
Hartmut van der
Hartmut Famler too.
Jeder erzählt wirklich das Gleiche.
And
über
everyone really
Farian,
says the
dass das
same thing about
so
Farian,
so wirklich ein genialer
that he was such a brilliant listener and hitmaker.
Hörmacher war.
Ja,
Ja,
das war,
so.
er hat gehört und gewusst.
He heard and hey, that's it.
Also einmalig. Ich
Unique.
kenne kaum
I hardly
jemanden, der
know
das
anyone who could do that.
Und man selber irrt sich ja auch oft.
You're often
man
mistaken
irgendwas
when you
hört
hear
und
something
denkt,
and think, oh,
Und es wird ein Riesenhit.
and it's going to be a
klar,
huge
weit
hit.
daneben. Passiert
Sure,
auch mal.
you're wrong.
Klar.
It happens
Also
sometimes.
ich glaube, das ist eine Erfahrung,
So I
die
think that's an
man,
experience
gar nicht
you
hoch
can't
genug
overestimate
einschätzen kann, mit
to have
so
worked with
jemandem
someone like
gearbeitet
that.
zu haben.
Ja, das ist, ich habe ja schon erzählt. Also, er
I've
war
already
der
told you that he was the
dritte
third
Mensch
person in my
meinem Leben,
life
der mich
who
der
completely
meinen
changed
Weg
my path.
völlig verändert hat. Ohne von
Without
Farian
Frank Farian,
wäre auch
would also
überhaupt die
be the
ganze
whole
deutsche
German pop
Popwelt.
world.
Es gibt
I
so
mean,
viele auch
there are
große-
many,
auch
even
große
big
Hits
hits
und
and
alles, aber er
everything,
war halt der
but he was
Größte.
just the greatest.
Der hat ja fast eine
He has sold
Milliarde
almost a
Tonträger
billion
verkauft.
records,
Und das ist, eine
and that's a
Zahl, die
figure
hat
that
in
nobody in
Deutschland
Germany has
keiner
reached
erreicht. Und die kann
and
man
can
auch
no
nicht
longer be reached.
Er war halt,
He was simply the
halt der
greatest.
Größte.
You just have to say that.
You don't want to miss an episode. Subscribe now to the channel on YouTube, Unseen Legends, the music world backstage.